Hello team and welcome back to another Line War cast. This is your map today in a 1v1 between Barracuda in blue and Iron Fox in red. Clearly Barracuda is going to spawn in the top left of this map. Iron Fox will be somewhere to the right in the red territory in this picking phase, this lovely Line War picking phase. So Iron Fox right along the coast here, starting on this town location and going for an airport immediately. Those two towns and two farms to start the game. And it's helicopters out of the airport for red. And the sound we just heard is that Barracuda is also going for an airport on the far left. A town with a port, which is a very strong thing. The ports are great value economically. And it's also helicopters for blue. To start the game, there's a lot of energy around blue in this refinery right here, or this energy well in this like forest and mountains, and then also right beside the airport. It's very unlikely that Barracuda is going to get this territory, this water territory. In order to do so, blue would have to build a dock or a sub pen, build a single boat, and then cap it. But there's also energy wells elsewhere on the map. You see that Barracuda's got that town in the north as well, so both players are going for two towns to start off this game. And Iron Fox follows up with a factory and a barracks. Subpen for Barracuda is on the far left. There's a lot of water territory here, and it's actually, if we take a look top down, there's quite a lot of water territory in the south. There's also this trade route that the subs would be able to interrupt if Iron Fox actually decides to build this. Over time, I'm sure that Red will try to get this trade route up. There's actually two of them here. Three if you count this trade route as well, which will be a little bit more difficult to hold as blue eventually makes the way over here. First helicopter is done. There is a commando being built out of the barracks for this transport plane, this tube on the airport for now. So there will be commando drops from blue. The secret agent is being constructed. I assume that's what this is. It's like a suit on this commando, I guess, is before all the gears put on. The infantry looks more like a convict when it's being built. I just say convict because it's like an orange shirt. I wonder if that's... I mean, I assume it's intentional. You see right here. Yeah, that's got to be a convict, right? That's Infenzia doing wonderful work. Second factory for Iron Fox, who also has SAMs on the way. This will be good long-term because Barracuda has decided to build an airport. The commando drop here is going to go to the southern island. There's this town with all these industry around it. I don't know why I couldn't find the word for industry. These 5 farms, this city location, once Barracuda builds this town, and then all the attached industry with these little roads, then blue can upgrade that location to a city, which is worth 10 territories of income. The first transport plane is complete for Barracuda. The first commando is done as well, and because this command is already down, this commando is going to load up into this plane anytime now. Anytime now. Does it wait for 2? Maybe it waits for 2. Today I learned. Once the second commando gets here, surely it will launch immediately, and there it is. I didn't know that. I thought if just one commando was sitting there that it would try to fly, but I guess not. Huge amount of infantry for Iron Fox that's going to spread out into the top right of the map. This is a lot of open field territory, and infantry don't have a movement speed nerf. Once they go, you know, they go through a forest, they move a little bit slower. So with this all open territory, Red should be able to cap it relatively quickly. The same cannot really be said for Barracuda because there's this mountain forest range that blue has to get through first in order to get into this open field. And then obviously very naturally it's going to depend what player gets to this choke first. Because the player who's there first can just dig in, makes it very difficult for the other player to actually push past that point. and a very defensive dig-in of SAMs and a good location. Probably going to defend this energy well. Iron Fox will have to take that. There's a lot of airplanes, or rather helicopters, that are complete, and once they start moving, they're going to use that energy. And eco-wise, 632 for blue and 594 for red. 2 submarines complete for Barracuda. And the next place that the commandos land is going to be on this southern little, I don't know what we want to call this, a sandbar, this little island in the south. But in general, a little bit of a slow build-up in this game. It will get... There's going to be a lot more action once the two forces meet on land here, and then at some point Red might build a dock. If Red decides to build these trade routes, a dock is almost, I think, required to defend these. There could be an argument that airplanes would be enough, especially if Red gets enough helicopters to deal with any amount of submarines or boats that Blue decides to make. Because I think there could still be a good case that Barracuda also decides to build another dock, or like the first dock for Blue, but to build a dock in the south, it's an airport instead for the moment. In a pretty central location, the strikers would be able to reach about this far out of this forward Blue airport. But it could just be helicopters that continue getting built. It's actually more transport planes for Barracuda, so maybe a lot of commando drops here. And having the airport forward, Blue could decide to land the transport planes at this point to get a little bit more range. From the forward airport, commandos could drop on Red's base. Although Barracuda wouldn't necessarily see that for now. This is Blue's vision. It's now 3 barracks in total in the north, and Barracuda's got a lot of eco. I like how both players are building a lot of eco and just continuing to go for that. First port is nearly complete for Iron Fox. And when there's enough money, we might see that Red builds this. This port in the south to get that trade route going. This refinery location's super safe for now for Iron Fox, so this will be the second refinery that Iron Fox builds. If it gets to that point. Cruiser out of a dock now for Red. I really like this. I think this will be super good to defend the trade route, which is going to be a lot of economy. Cruisers can die to submarines, certainly. Destroyers have better detection of stealthy units, and submarines count as them, but there's so many helicopters that maybe as coastal defense, it's enough to fend off a few submarines that'll look to destroy the merchant ships that are inevitably like trying to transit this little, you know, the trade route to start making all the money. Or the subs can just destroy the ports. And eco-wise, 849 for Iron Fox and 918 for Barracuda. Both players making a lot of money per minute. Blue has built the first dock of the game. For Blue, of course. I mean, Iron Fox has this one, and then Iron Fox is also going for this third town. The longer this goes, the more greedy these towns become. Because it's only a matter of time before Blue shows up and sees that this is the play. And given that their trade routes, Barracuda is going to know that this southern trade route is also probably being constructed or complete. But Blue kind of counteracting a little bit of the eco that Red's going for by continuing to build these towns and ports on the southern island. And this is the plan. So the transport jets are in the forward airport, gives those commandos more range. And I don't see anywhere on the map that the commandos are looking to drop right now. Or rather, I don't see a command. I guess it's still here that the commandos are going to be dropping. And finally, red comes into vision for Barracuda. When this town is constructed, I think that this many infantry might actually be able to detect it in the fog of war. And then Iron Fox's vision, kind of same thing. Sees that Barracuda is here. First trade route is up. You can tell, obviously, because of the highlighted port lines or trade route lines, it's more cruisers for red. And a steady stream of 2 factories worth of SAMs and artillery and infantry out of this barracks. Slowly making its way over to the main fight. It's actually a 3rd factory as well. Barracuda's got SAMs being built out of this factory. Another factory further up front. I like this factory. Reinforcements will get to the front line very quickly. And long term, if Blue's going to be able to break through this choke, it's going to take a lot of units. So the buildup of producers makes sense. Clearly, Barracuda doesn't really feel all that much pressure that this push from red is going to do all that much, because this farm is in a very aggressive forward location. There's so many helicopters from both sides that are making their way to the fight. Unfortunately for Barracuda, there's no energy? There's no refinery yet. No, there is one. I was going to say, how are the planes moving at all to this point? That they got this far when there's been commando drops already. So 2nd refinery on the way for blue. 2 refineries already for red. And this will turn into a standoff until it doesn't. It usually happens in line war. At some point, one player is going to feel they have the advantage and start pushing. And eco is so important to look at. 1154 for Iron Fox and 1299 for Barracuda. Red building another factory close to the front, so it's 4 total factories. For red, still more eco on the way. Absolutely love that both players going so heavy eco. And it's paying off because you can see that the per minute, pardon me, money being made by both players is quite high. So this is where subs can be super effective, and it's kind of hard to tell if you're the cruiser player here that this is happening. There's no alerts or anything that your units are being attacked. So if you're watching Iron Fox's vision, I mean, this is the only thing that's being seen, is the explosions from the torpedoes. 2 cruisers isn't really enough to see the boats. When they're right on top of them, they get the detection. But otherwise, it's going to be Red's helicopters that are going to be effective in scouting those subs and then also destroying them. The explosions we're hearing are just a handful of helicopters exploding on both sides. And 2 more factories up front for Barracuda. I guess it's 3 more factories. And one's already completed building. So with the number of subs here, this is the strength of them. The closer they get to the coast, the more easily that red can detect them, because of the buildings cumulatively will also add to the detection of stealth units. And this is a destroyer that Iron Fox is now making. Destroyers have great detection against submarines, and also we need the line war music. There we go. Otherwise, what is this cast even for? 1329 income for Iron Fox, 1513 for Barracuda. This is what I'm talking about. So Iron Fox is just going to dig in here. It'll take a lot of effort for Blue to actually push through this. So you can see, even with one cruiser, one missile boat, and one helicopter, it doesn't detect all of the subs in the area. It's always scary going up against subs, or any stealth unit for that matter. One, because it always feels like there's more of them than there possibly are, because you can't see them at all. And then also the delicate tipping point of, if you lose enough units around those subs, then this happens. Just leaves one cruiser stranded, unfortunately. And the subs pick it off. Red is totally dug in at this point, so Barracuda is going to back up all these units. I mean, the ones in front are still going to go through, but for the most part, Blue isn't going to commit, and a rocket in such a good location, I think, for Barracuda. It's very central. It can reach Red's main base. It obviously can deal with this choke. It's relatively safe. There's enough SAMs around it that a helicopter raid from Red wouldn't be able to destroy it. And actually, I think a lot of helicopters were lost just in general against the SAMs earlier, because there's only 2 helicopters left for Iron Fox, 2 sub-pens in the south. Subs also have good detection, so subs are oftentimes like a very good counter against submarines. Submarines and destroyers really are like the 2 best counters on water, destroyers being like the best counter. Destroyers with some cruisers, I think, is optimal. Once subs in straight up fights, they really aren't like too good. There was a time when subs were extremely good just in straight up fights, because they had the speed and the range that they could kind of kite boats. But I'm super certain that on one of the most recent patches that was changed subtly. Subs still very good, but they're not as good at that, you know, attack and drive away or whatever, sail away, whatever you call that. What would you call that on a sub? It's not driving away. It's not. It feels like it's not sailing away either. So this is the second trade route that Iron Fox is trying to get set up here. Certainly, I think Red is stabilized. With the second dock, it's such a precarious situation, because if Blue gets too much Navy and there's these 3 docks for Blue, then if Red loses the naval engagement, then Blue just pushes forward and destroys all the docks, all the towns, and the game kind of ends there. Or it can end there. We've seen that happen before. 1516 income for Red and 1655 for Blue. The launch pad is complete, and the rocket will go down as soon as Blue has 500 money. One city on the way for Barracuda. Another dock in the south. And for Iron Fox, no city on the way quite yet, but still like a decent amount of eco. This is predominantly an arty blob for Iron Fox, so it will take a long time for these red artillery pieces to continue pushing. And I don't think that Red's going to be able to get to this launch pad in time before this rocket completes. There is a chance, but as long as Blue gets dug in here, it should buy enough time. And clearly Barracuda thinks that this is going to buy enough time, given this very forward town location. If you're Blue, you're seeing this though and realizing that it looks like Iron Fox is going for a bigger push, but maybe this is deceiving, because all these units in the forest are stealth. To me, it would look like Red's just going for a big push. My read on this situation is that red's in a little bit of trouble. This is a ton of helicopters. There's really not that much AA at this location by these two docks, this town and this port. Two SAMs move over. Actually, I like this adjustment from Iron Fox. Gives a little bit more coverage over the water for red. But there's 3 cruisers and all these missile boats and subs that are about to show up and just get into a straight fight. 3 submarines complete for Iron Fox, which is protecting all of this, which is great for red. And we're having a fight on 3 fronts. Up on land here, the helicopters very wisely decide to turn back. This is Barracuda's vision, seeing all these SAMs dug in. Dug-in SAMs have more health, they also have more range on their attack. I feel that SAMs, of all the units, probably get the biggest boost when in entrenchments. I know it's the same between SAMs and artillery and infantry for how much health and range that they get, but SAMs in particular, I think, benefit from that range advantage. First little battle goes well for blue, leaving no boats for red to defend against these 3 cruisers. Submarines from Iron Fox are making their way into the fight. And a very bold merchant ship trying its best to get to this port. I think it actually will. The rocket is 2/3 of the way done. And the defensive lines for Barracuda are doing exactly what they need to do, which is buy time. The rocket should be devastating. If these blue boats don't destroy at least one building here, I would be very surprised. This rocket is actually starting to get close to minimum range for how far a rocket can fly. This red army might actually be getting close enough that the blue rocket can't do anything against it. It could still go against all these production buildings. I mean, Barracuda probably has an idea that there's some amount of buildings here, but a lot of them are stealth because of the forest. And Iron Fox also has this launch pad being built close to the front. It's actually quite the game. One of the docks goes down. But overall, because these 2 trade routes are staying up... Actually, it's also this one in the north. Iron Fox is really crushing it on these trade routes. The helicopters, as long as they destroy the merchant ships, then none of that income is actually collected from Iron Fox. It's when the merchant ship gets into port and unloads all its cargo, that's when the player actually receives the money from the trade route. So the helicopters here for Barracuda are quite large strategically. Rocket is complete for Barracuda. Who knows where this thing is gonna go? All these SAMs are in like a very good position to deal with these helicopters, and this is starting to look a little bit scary for Barracuda. There's not really enough time to actually dig in front of the rocket, and Barracuda's going to build one back further in the mountains. I'm not sure if this is because Barracuda knows that this rocket is already going to fall, or if this is just like an insurance marker. Love this drop from blue. It's going to be a pretty decent amount of units, because like all these units for blue are going to get over right away. There's 4 transport boats for a tiny little gap. The helicopters will be a problem though, because there's no SAMs as part of this. And there's only this 1 missile boat for blue. In the south, Barracuda is also going for a drop. Destroyed this town with these commandos. There's so much going on in this game. It's going on to the whole map, in the south, in the middle, and then also in the north here. A lot of commandos. They're going to destroy both of those submarine pens. Iron Fox also put 3 docks down in the south. Very successful drops from Barracuda, I think, both in the center here and then in the south, because there's no more trade routes. 1730 income for red and 1877 for blue. The rocket will be launched. I don't think there's no gain to be had as Barracuda if the rocket's built and then it's not launched. It's not like any money comes back. I think the problem is that there's actually no energy. Blue needs 40 energy to launch the rocket, which was one of the changes in the most recent patch. And I think red is going to destroy this. So now it's just a huge red arty blob with really not much in its way. This rocket will likely not be complete by the time Iron Fox gets within range. In the south, this is very positive news. These helicopters can also help the commandos deal with all these infantry. And 1845 income for blue and still 1710 for red. These transport boats will actually be able to destroy this port. If they're given enough time, they're going to be able to destroy this port. It'll be the first port snipe we ever see of transport boats in Line War. With their little firecrackers going at it, they don't do any, like, much damage at all. Launch pad is complete for Barracuda. The rocket for Iron Fox is 1/3 of the way done. And there's more barracks on the as well, but in general this is fizzled out for Barracuda. This is what matters. This is what we're here to watch. Income-wise, 1663 for red and 1841 for blue. Way to go, transport boats. Yeah, there's really not much the Barracuda can do except dig in like this. There's not really a ton of time to do so. And now we see Barracuda's making 138 a minute at 1786 total. Iron Fox making close to 500 a minute, over 500 a minute, 1673 income total. Launchpad is on the stand for Barracuda. And this rocket, I believe, can reach this far. So it kind of puts Barracuda on a little bit of a timer. All those units are going to be in trouble. So you can see it's like 5 helicopters for blue, and it's just enough that some of these subs kind of drop out of vision. If not enough units are close to them. Makes it more difficult for these blue helicopters to actually destroy those subs. This city in the bottom left is fully complete, which is good for blue. This still a very tough situation though. These are 2 very non-trivial red armies that blue has to deal with. And the rocket for red is complete, so I guess I should zoom out to make sure we don't miss this. The drop in the south is now fizzled out completely. There are still some transport boats. Barracuda wisely kept these alive for the future. But in general, a good hold from Iron Fox there. More airports to make this helicopter swarm even larger. And Iron Fox getting this city on the far right, realistically, this rocket is now going to be used for defensive purposes. Okay, well, I lied. It's going to be used right now. I think this will likely be the game. There's just so much, like, so many producers here. It's just very expensive. To lose all of these is tough. That's 3 factories that'll go down, maybe 2. Yeah, the third one is still alive. The rocket on the stand is all bent out of shape. I'm sure it will still work though. Barracuda does the reasonable thing, which is put down the factories again. But the momentum is entirely on Iron Fox's side. Still more commandos off these two barracks that Barracuda is loading up for another drop in the south. But so far there's really still no answer for these 2 arty blobs from red. It's not like there's a lot of helicopters or anything, or planes in general for blue to deal with these, and even if there was, there's a decent amount of SAMs in location. There's no overwhelming amount of tanks or infantry to deal with all these artillery either. And the more SAMs that Iron Fox gets down in the south makes it even harder for these helicopters to get any value. There's only 2 left in the southern little island for Barracuda at this point anyway. Rocket is nearly done. For Barracuda, we might see that launch before a GG. I think these are red subs. Yeah, these are red submarines. Sometimes it's hard to tell what player is owning what subs. And if we eco-check this, it's 1784 for blue and 1980 for red. Okay, the rocket is complete. It sinks down in the launch pad and it's going to go right here. Which it kind of makes sense to get rid of one of the blobs. Handful of SAMs go down with it. Pretty decent rocket. But unfortunately for blue, there's no real way to counter off of that rocket or get anything done. If the landing in the south went a little bit different and some of these territories were now blue territories and Barracuda could have got a foothold on the right hand side, maybe this turns out different. Overall, like, very close game. One heck of a line war game. Helicopters Tokyo drifting around these cruisers to try to defend the town. No real point. The 3 cruisers are going to be able to destroy it. I know in Discord there was a mention of when buildings explode, they should do area damage around them. I have no opinions on whether that's balanced or would be good or whatever. I just think it would be wild to see. It'd be very funny to watch all these explosions happening and then chain reaction explosions. Look at all these helicopters. City on the way, looking great with these cranes. And the cruisers presumably are heading up to try to destroy that town again. Well played. GG both. We got some graphs, we got some stats. I think my scroll wheel's broken. I keep saying that every single cast, but I'm pretty sure it is. Very interesting. We don't often see games where the income changes between the two players as much, I think. It's a very cool game. Well played to both of them. These replays are in the tournament replays section of the Discord, the channel, because they are part of the 1v1 tournament that is ongoing right now in Line War. Some great games coming out of it. Shouts out to Tim Baylor for making a cool visualization tool. I mean, the tool's been made for a long time. Tim's been posting some cool replay overviews for like a year now. Over a year, I think. They look great though, very helpful and for me to kind of like get a general idea of if a game's close or not. I still don't really watch the game. Like when I watch the game, you know, it's the first time I'm watching it. I don't know what happens. But shouts out to Tim. Shouts out to everyone in the Line War community playing games every day. I appreciate the support, views, comments, subs to the channel. It all helps the channel grow, helps the game grow. I think, I hope. And hope you have a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever it is. Check out the Line War Discord. Peace. GG.